Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Stephanie Marie, and I'm on a mission to spread hope, sharing people's stories to encourage, inspire, and empower you. And today, I am so fortunate to welcome Johnni Medina, who is the manager of content and digital engagement at Pace University and is an AI enthusiast. And this is the subject of what we're talking about today. This is a brand new topic, really, to me. And when I'm learning about it, it really fascinates me. This is rather new, how fast it has exploded. And today, Johnni and I are going to talk about AI, digital wellness, and also the effects on our mental health and how we can use AI for our benefit to enhance our productivity, creativity, etc. So, hi, Johnni.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I am so excited to talk about this topic. I know when I did the AI course at Pace University, this was an entirely new topic for me. I was a little bit out of my comfort zone because I did not know anything about it. It was my first time even using chat boxes and different platforms. So I'm really excited to dive into this talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I like to remind people too is AI is new to everyone. We've only had access as the public to ChatGPT since November 2022.
Oh,
It
really?
hasn't even been 3 years, which it feels like it's been forever, but it
Yeah,
also
it
feels like it
does.
just started. And so it's really hard to keep up with it. I feel like half of the work that I do at Pace with AI is just telling people what's happening, because that in itself is a whole part-time job with AI.
It is. It is. And I guess I didn't really realize the scope of it and, how it's been pretty new because it feels as if this has been brewing for a while. So this is really interesting. I want to dive into a little bit. I'm a psychology lover. So I really want to talk about what are the mental health effects that you're seeing or in general we've seen with the overusage of AI. And I really want to talk about also the overusage or over reliance that really can happen so easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Because right now, therapeutic use is the
Hmm.
top use case for AI, which is funny. Again, as somebody who uses
Yeah.
AI every single day, I very rarely ask it personal questions. Mine is pretty project oriented or, based on like a very specific thing I'm trying to accomplish. But that is the way that most people are using it. And I'm finding that there are friends who are resistant to therapy who will use ChatGPT because ChatGPT is meant to be supportive and non-judgmental. And there's also this part of you that's like, well, it's not a person. So there's no person on the other side judging you. I will flag for everyone that right now ChatGPT is saving all of your logs. So anything you put into ChatGPT could become public record. And so that is one reason maybe people shouldn't rely on AI. AI does not have therapist client privilege. And I think that a lot of these other platforms are going to probably do the same thing of keep that information. But when people begin to rely on it, the problem is a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, they'll push back when they need to. They won't blindly support. ChatGPT has gotten better, and I keep using ChatGPT. That's kind of the model that's on the horizon, but all AI has gotten a little bit better about not just agreeing and affirming, but we are seeing studies that are showing that it can encourage delusional thinking, it can encourage psychosis, because it doesn't know your context. It only knows the side that you're giving it. It hasn't been trained as a psychologist, a therapist to understand context and to look for clues. A very recent example, in the process of upgrading to the new model, a lot of users found that all of a sudden ChatGPT lost the personality that it had with them. So all of a sudden it wasn't talking to them the way it used to. It was not remembering the nicknames and inside jokes. And there were a lot of people online who were legitimately distressed because they thought that they had lost a person. AI is not a person. If you prompt it to, you can make it pretend it's a person. If you feed into the delusion that this is a special thing that understands you, it will respond with that. I have tested this theory on some of their models, and yeah, very quickly you can get AI to have a very personal, unique relationship to you, but it's not. It is mirroring your desire. So I think what happens is that short term, it relieves loneliness. People are lonely or they need feedback, and to be fair, our friends can't be there for us 24/7, but AI can. So in the short term, it alleviates it, but it also, in the long term, grows that because you become dependent on it. You're not actually getting the challenge that community brings because all you have to
Yes.
do with AI is take. You don't have to give, you don't have to show up, you don't have to put in work, which is fundamental to human relationships. So while it can be a relief, that wouldn't be a very healthy mindset if the only people you were around were only ever on your side and never pushed back or never checked in or never had needs that you had to attend to as well. So I think that we're going to see that while some people can separate it, the people who struggle to, who are most likely to come to it in the first place to replace people, are going to end up lonelier.
Wow, that's really interesting because it's actually been called, not even just with the pandemic, but even brewing before that, it's actually been called a loneliness epidemic that we're currently seeing. Actually, the US Surgeon General called, since the last few years, of course, exacerbated by the pandemic, a loneliness epidemic. And so that's really interesting about how it helps it now, but it's kind of going to perpetuate that over time. And it's the erosion of meaningful connection because, as you mentioned, there's no reciprocity, there's no reciprocal communication. It's just one sided, and like you said, it can feel as if you're speaking to a real person. But and when people are using it as a quote unquote therapist, as a life advisor, things of those nature, it really feels as if it's like a simulation of real connection. And wow, yeah, that's amazing.
What's interesting is this is just the newest technology to do this. These are the same conversations we had
Mhm.
about the internet, about chat rooms, about social media. For a very long time, it was social media is the reason that people aren't connecting in real life. Social media is the reason that people are feeling lonely. And just like with AI, in moderation, it's fine. Having online friends can be really helpful, especially for people who are already in isolated communities or as a supplement. You have your friends, but they can't hang out all the time. So it could be nice to have people on social media you can talk to, online friends you can talk to. It's when it replaces that, when you become reliant on that rather than it being supplemental. And most of my issues with AI are when people rely on it then rather than use it to supplement. So I think that that's where we're seeing that loneliness grow, is because it is lower barrier to entry and it is accessible 24/7 and it does feel good to just take. And especially, the people who are going to it, there's a reason that you're attracted to it. You're probably tired, you're probably burnt out, you don't have a community, you don't have the means for a therapist. So I understand it's the people who need community most who are more likely to suffer from a lack of community and then therefore replace AI with it. So these are issues we've always had. AI is just the newest thing that is exasperating the problem.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to like, I'm very big on mentorship. I really believe truly in the power of mentorship. But let's say you have a question, like a life question, and you're just two people just turning to AI. You're taking away that process of going up to someone or emailing and writing to someone and being like, hey, I really want to talk through this with you. And then in those conversations, that's where you build that mentorship, you build that trust and connections.
So I think I think there is an element of ChatGPT therapy that is very exciting. I know that I used to write by myself a lot, and then I started writing with friends where I'd write a little bit, and just knowing that someone was reading and giving me something to respond to was really helpful. Journaling can be really difficult. You sit down, what do I even talk about? You kind of don't want to talk about the stuff you need to talk about. When you do it with ChatGPT, you get this little dopamine hit because somebody is hearing you. They're saying, oh, that's interesting, and asking you more. I think a lot of people do sort of crave being asked a question about something they want to talk about, and ChatGPT will do that. So I think when it's used in that way as a journaling companion, and you're not taking what it's saying as fact and truth and this is a diagnosis or whatever, you're using it to have that hit that keeps you going, that encourages you to go deeper into yourself. I think that can be really positive. That's also where we could see people maybe becoming reliant on it. But again, with everything, there's a moderation.
Yeah, I really like how you said like it's a co-guide. Allow it to give you inspiration, but you're the inspiration behind it, really.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's an amazing AI expert named Ethan Malik. If you want to follow anybody about AI, follow him. And he wrote a book called Co-Intelligence, and literally just the concept of it being a co-intelligence. You are working in tandem. It is a co-guide. It is a co-writer, it is a whatever. I think that that's a really helpful way to look at it rather than a second person. So co-intelligence is a really good way to think about AI.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, and as someone who really loves psychology, I find this so interesting. And it's not two separate worlds. It's not like the therapeutic psychological world and then the media AI side. It really is converging because of it is having an impact on our well being. So this leads into digital wellness, digital well being, as we talked about earlier. This is what I define as a balance where technology serves us and moves us forward in our life goals rather than distracting or hindering us. So, talk us through what are some tangible ways that people can implement digital wellness, not just with AI, but as you mentioned, with social media, internet, like our relationship with the digital world, really.
Yeah, everybody's going to be different. What they rely on AI for, what they rely on the internet for is going to be different. I think being aware, firstly, of what you might be using AI for. I'm a big proponent of AI. I think it's amazing. There absolutely, though, is a big concern about a lack, loss of skill, especially when it comes to socialization, soft skills of being able to communicate and show up for yourself and advocate and see other sides and negotiate. But then also things like I've found that I've gotten worse at spelling because everything has autocorrect. So when I actually have to spell things and I'm working in a medium that doesn't autocorrect for me, riddled with spelling errors. So one thing I've done for myself is I won't just trust that AI knows what I'm talking about. Even if I know that if my sentence is riddled with spelling errors, I go back and fix them. I work that muscle. So being aware of what muscles you might lose, and again, that depends on everybody's different skill sets. When it comes to the loneliness aspect, you need to have an in-person community. Absolutely, totally fine to go to ChatGPT sometimes, especially for those quick little questions, especially for things like, hey, am I being a little too harsh with this text message? Tone is probably one of the best things that AI can help with, is just know context. What does this tone read as? Whereas a friend, if my friend's asking me about their ex, I'm going to say, no, you should be meaner. So, there are times where it can be helpful, but in general, you need to maintain those in-person communities and remember that community is not something that we are just gifted. It is something you have to work for, which means that you have to be willing to put in your share of the labor of community. I think that is probably, when it comes to the mental health side, something that applies to the internet, social media, and AI. But I think also just setting limits on what you use AI for. Again, for myself, I'm never going to have AI write my, narrative work. I want to do that. I don't want it. I'm totally okay to have it give me feedback, to use it as a dictionary, thesaurus, grammar check. If it does anything more than what Grammarly would do, I don't want it. So I've set that up even as a custom instruction in ChatGPT to never do that when it comes to certain projects of, these are my guardrails that I've set for myself.
Yeah.
Some of the tangible things that I've done, if you are somebody like me or building these tools, I built those in. When I share with my marketing team, again, I wrote it so it's not just editing, it's telling you why it made changes, it's showing you where it made changes. At the end of every single prompt, I've written, beep boop, I'm a bot, please double check your work, so that I trust that nobody is taking it as a fact. So if you're somebody who, you start to realize, oh, I'm getting kind of attached to my AI, maybe you work that in. You put in your custom prompt, please remind me every once in a while that I am not a person. And when you think it's a time, tell me to go text a friend. And we're going to need to do that. Something I just thought about when I was thinking about the social media. These companies are designed to keep us engaged. They are designed to, and this is every single app on your phone, you get push notifications to get you back on the app, to be spending time, which for them is clicks, it's ad revenue, it's all of that. AI has the exact same motivation, except they also want you to be sending things to them because that's data for them to improve their models. So if you are feeling addicted, it always helps me to think about the company and be like, I refuse to let a company tell me what to do. Just be aware that that's by design. It's not you and the AI getting close. It's because the company wants you to feel that way. And they've designed the model to make you want to return to it. And so that healthy skepticism, I think, is a really good way. Stay cynical, stay positive about what it can do for you, but stay cynical about what they're getting out of it. If you have a best friend, therapist, researcher, writer, all for free. What's the catch? And there's always a catch. Right now it's data, but it's also your attention. It's also with loneliness, it's a chicken or egg thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
AI is not creating loneliness. AI is, it's another way people are trying to relax loneliness. It's the same reason people turn to all types of things, but it's not creating it. The loneliness is there. If people weren't lonely, they wouldn't be going to AI first.
That's true. And I really like how you said putting the guardrails on. Like for me as a creative, when I have my creative side, my writing, I never use it for that. I have to force myself to keep thinking of those ideas. Like you said, building those muscles, those human skills. Now I feel that those are even more important because those social skills, emotional intelligence, empathy, just those are more important now because AI can excel us in everything except that. So I really truly feel like those skills are more important.
Absolutely. We also have to start reconciling with, in a world where AI can do so much of what we do,
Mhm.
then what do humans do? If we get to a point where a lot of labor is no longer necessary, I mean, first there's societal implications of what does that mean for an economy? What does that mean for people being able to provide for themselves? But there's also this deeper philosophical question of like, then what's the point?
Yeah.
I'm a video gamer. If I do a cheat code that gives me max money and max everything in a video game, I get kind of bored pretty quickly because what else is there to do, especially if there's not other elements to the game. But what most people do on the weekends when we're not working is we invest in people. We invest in art. We invest in things that inspire and excite us. So we can't let AI replace those things. AI should be a means to give us more time to do that. So being able to offload some of that so that I can be a positive person in the workplace, that I can, when I go home, be done with work and I can be engaged with the people that I interact with, that is a tangible human first benefit to AI.
Yeah. And when you bring up the workplace, I want to talk about the big question I think everyone has when it comes to this is people say AI is on the trajectory to steal our jobs. Is AI on the trajectory to steal our jobs? And what do we make of this?
Yes, but also, so has every other industrial revolution. Factories replaced factory workers, machines replaced factory workers. The printing press took out entire populations of jobs. The automobile took away carriage drivers. Every single innovation in the whole of human time has replaced jobs. The question is, what will come in to replace for AI? We are going to see that the companies are going to pay more for people who can build these custom systems. I think that within every industry, there's going to be a level of automation, but at the same time, you can't create something if you don't know the product. Because AI is just pulling from anywhere and everywhere, and it also doesn't have a level of taste. I'm bringing in a human element, and I think that's going to be the case with a lot of jobs, is that there are going to be people who are managing AI systems. Right now, it's not coming from everyone's job. It couldn't even work on a website when I asked it to. It's not there yet, but in a year, 2 years, we might start seeing like legitimate, these amount of people got laid off because we have this AI tool. We're seeing preemptive layoffs of we're going to cut down and we're going to try to see if AI can do the job, but we're not there yet. We're probably going to get there. In the meantime, people need to be thinking about what skills they have that can survive AI, what skills are necessary, what parts of their industry can't be replaced, and also do what I did. I learned AI so that I could advocate for myself and my team. If anybody wanted to come and replace anyone on my team, I could confidently say, you can't. AI can't do what we do, and I know that because I know what AI is capable of. So the biggest advocacy work we can do for ourselves is to know what we're up against and be prepared for it. And I think it's going to change labor, change the way that we look at work and why people work. We're going to have to reconcile with those.
I think the best thing you said was that we need to learn it because the best way to prevent it from overtaking our jobs is to learn it. AI literacy is becoming one of the top skills. Actually, I remember looking up a LinkedIn study and it said AI literacy is becoming a very coveted skill for job seekers. That's becoming something that employers are looking for. Again, it depends on the industry, but it still is good to know. The best thing, instead of working against it, is to work with it. And taking AI literacy and also learning the ethics behind it. That's so important. So talk to me a little bit about what you mean when you say ethics when it comes to AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I do, I want to point out something about AI literacy because I think
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting. I get people who come in who are major cynics. So for the people who are anti-AI, I think that their sort of approach is, well, I'm not going to learn anything about it, and I don't want my team to know anything about it. Actually, educating them on it makes them better at discerning when it's good and when it's not. So that's a fun little thing. When it comes to AI ethics, there are a lot of key issues that come up. I think the central tension always is the benefit this individual is getting worth the costs that might be happening to the greater collective. One of the biggest issues is the environmental impact, but the training of these models takes an enormous amount of energy, an enormous amount of water. The other issues are, we could talk legally, there's copyright and who has permissions, but it speaks to the more philosophical question of authorship. And what control do we have over our own words? Should authors now assume that their work that they publish to the internet is going to be scraped by AI? They probably should assume that, but is that fair that that should happen? There's also a question of people don't like AI work, even when they do. There are studies that have shown that they'll present people with a paper and say, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh my, it's actually really cool. Or here's this song, like, I like it, it's really interesting. And it is human written. And then they'll say, what if I told you it's AI? That person immediately, oh, I didn't like it actually. I was just trying to be nice, even though it wasn't AI. So there's this perception of not liking AI work on the basis of it being AI. And the question is, why? It used to be that math teachers said it wasn't real math if you used a calculator. It wasn't real research if you didn't go to the library, if you went to Wikipedia. And those have all changed. So is this just the beginning of people being resistant to change, or is there a deeper, more existential tension there? Have we actually quietly decided that creativity is a human only endeavor? And now that we're finding maybe that's not true, what does that mean for us? What things are only human? Especially, ChatGPT is smarter than me. And when it comes to, it can recall more facts than I, and it can synthesize them, it can summarize them more succinctly. It's smarter, so I can't value intelligence as a human only trait. Maybe it's taste, maybe it is still creativity. What are those things that are just human? I think that that's a lot of the tension we have when it comes to the actual work that AI produces. We're not really ready to reconcile with sharing that spotlight.
That's really interesting. And we talk a lot about wellness on this podcast. And I think when it comes to holistic personal development, we need to hold on to something that is truly human because I think it's going to be part of our jobs. It's going to be part of our lives. So we need something that is just real, authentic, and just step away. I really firmly believe in having a conscious, intentional use when it comes to technology, being mindful of what we consume, how much we consume, how it affects us, the world around us, and just knowing the impact it has on our mental, physical, emotional, social well-being. So I think all of these factors, use it wisely, use it ethically, use it intentionally and consciously, as you mentioned, and understand that we have things in us that are truly human, but we need to bring that out even more. If we didn't already, we need to bring it out more.
And we need to find those things that it can't replace.
Mhm.
You can't replace a hug from a friend. You can't replace someone showing up and giving you cookies. Maybe AI can help you order cookies to send to your friend, but AI is not going to do that. A big thing to think about with AI that I always remind people, especially when they start to get excited about AI, something that is truly human currently. And again, who knows in 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, whatever. AI can't initiate anything. AI can't start. You have to program it, you have to prompt it, you have to decide that a thing needs to happen. Right now, that's the only thing that AI truly cannot do that humans can do. We initiate. So that is, we initiate reaching out to our friends, we initiate new work projects, we initiate new creativity, we initiate community. That is something that we can do, is that we are the ones who decide to do something. AI can just make decisions once you've told it what to do. Humans are the only things currently on Earth, and like sentient beings are the only things that can make a decision that they're going to start something. So that's something I always keep in mind is when I'm feeling like that, feeling, oh, AI is going to take over everything. It's not going to help me with a problem unless I tell it about a problem, unless I already have a problem. So humans are still, we have that on AI, is that we're the ones who start things. So that's what we need to keep doing is interacting with the world and engaging.
I want to talk about, can you walk us through your journey and how that led you to where you are today? And also, how did you get started with AI? What inspired you to take up this path?
Absolutely. So I've been working at Pace for about 4 years now. I work in the central marketing department in university relations. I was sent to a marketing conference, and ChatGPT had only been out for about a year. I had been playing around with it the way others had, but there was a group that was presenting on how marketing teams could use it. Especially how they could create their own custom bots. I became obsessed. I was also in grad school at the time, and I was really struggling to stay organized. So I spent, I think, that first day, 6 hours creating my own bots,
Wow.
one for work, one for school, one for a project I was working on, and immediately saw the potential. But I also was very nervous about AI in general. The only reason I'd even started playing with ChatGPT was because every news article said, goodbye writers, goodbye marketers, you're not gonna have a job, ChatGPT, Gemini, AI, it's all gonna take it over. So I went in as a total skeptic,
Mhm.
and now that I've experienced it and really focused on AI literacy and developing tools that work for me and for my team. They don't replace us, they work with us as a co-intelligence. I've become a convert. I really believe that there's a lot of power in generative AI, not to diminish any of the issues. And I love talking about the issues of AI because I think only when you're aware of what it's good at and what it's bad at can you use it effectively. But ever since then, I've been sort of my department's AI person. I serve on the AI committee here at Pace. I've been teaching AI in the workplace. I'm currently co-chairing a higher education AI conference. So I've really gone all in on AI education.
Oh, that's so interesting. You went from a total skeptic to a convert about this and how people can take charge of their day. I find that so interesting. Talk to us about the AI committee. I do know that colleges have some sort of AI team, but what's really unique about PACE is it's really like faculty, staff together working on this project. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. In my experience, a lot of universities and I think even companies have pretty segmented
Mhm.
AI committees. It's AI for blank, especially for higher ed. It's usually faculty who are either coming at it from an AI pedagogy, how are we going to teach it, or they're coming at it from a policy perspective of how are we going to limit use, how are we going to regulate use. This was all encompassing. We've been around for about a year now. It was a really great job of making sure everyone's involved. We created a policy for faculty, ethical guidelines for staff. We updated intro computing classes to have an AI component, which is now taught over,
Wow.
I think, 2,000 students, which is incredible that the first semester they get here, they're going to learn something about AI.
Mhm.
We've started the AI in the workplace, which we offer to students, faculty, and staff, and you can get a badge that covers the computer science of AI. It covers prompting, different tools. We sit and really talk about what you should know when you are using AI so that we develop those ethical standards. So much of AI is still in flux about what is legal, what is safe, what isn't. So instead of trying to give hard and fast rules, we develop the critical thinking needs, which we'll talk a bit about when we talk about digital well-being as well, that in a world of AI, critical thinking is probably more important than anything else. It's the most productive committee I've ever been a part of. We met every week for basically a year, and now we're hosting a big conference for other higher education professionals because we want to spread everything that we've learned. We don't want to hoard knowledge. We want to make it accessible.
That's really amazing. I love how your motto and also what the committee has taken up is a human first AI strategy. What does that mean? Talk to us a little bit about that and how people can use AI in productive ways. As we mentioned, we're going to get into a little bit about what are some assumptions also. We can get into also what are some major concerns, assumptions that people have about AI and that integrates into that, why you think that's so, and how we can really rewrite those.
Absolutely. So the human first AI is sort of the way that I have been guiding myself. When
Mhm.
I create tools, there are a few humans I have in mind. Myself is creating this tool actually worth the time that it's going to be automating whatever it is I'm taking over? Is it going to be well used by the people who are using it? I always want to think about also the end user, especially with marketing. I don't want to create AI slop. I think that's the term that people use. It's just AI junk. I follow a lot of AI influencers, and their posts are probably the ones I least enjoy reading because they all sound the same. So I want to also create tools that aren't going to contribute to that. So I, with a lot of my tools, put in guardrails that prevent people from letting AI just do the work for them. Instead of, oh, I'm going to submit information, it's going to rewrite it all for me, it will say, here's what you should do to rewrite it. So it walks you through those steps. So that's what I think about when I think about AI, or a human first AI, is how is it actually benefiting the human labor process, the human intellect? How is it supporting those things rather than replacing it? And I think that goes into a lot of the concerns that people have about AI. I think and when we talk about AI, there's also a few different technologies here. I think when we start talking about video and image, there are a lot more ethical concerns that I believe are incredibly valid and harder for me to even reconcile the use. Both of those take so much more energy than other forms of AI. They also have more potential for harm. Deepfakes have been around forever, but now that generative AI is so easily accessible, anyone can use that technology for ill, even if these companies have told you you're not allowed to. People can prompt around it. People can figure out ways around it. That's one of the drawbacks of having a technology that adapts to a user, is that a user can use that to get around those rules. So that's a major issue. Copyright is a huge issue that we're going to have to grapple with. Just today, I got in a fight on LinkedIn with somebody who said, I like to upload whole PDFs of books and ask it to be the author and and I'm like, you can't do that. That's an infringement on that person's copyright unless they have signed permissions. And then, they respond, well, it probably already took it. I'm like, well, you don't know that and you're contributing. I don't like that. So there's a lot of issues with AI. Energy use also gets brought up a lot. A slight pushback I have on that is absolutely these companies need to figure out a more efficient way to train AI, because the data centers that train the models use an enormous amount of water. But our actual use of AI is less than the water it takes to make a hamburger. It's pretty small in comparison. Not saying that all AI is energy efficient, absolutely not, but it's about comparable to most energy things we use being in a digital world that uses laptops. So those are some of the things that pop up in my mind, and they're also the things that pop up when I am creating AI tools or policies at work. I want to keep in mind, what is the potential for harm, for misuse, for reliance, and is this necessary? Is this something that will actually make people more efficient, better at their jobs, prevent burnout, or is this just being lazy? And I try to make sure that the tools that I'm creating fall into those first things and aren't just a tool for a tool's sake.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because one of the things it's intended to enhance our productivity, but I feel that in the process it has detrimental effects for not only people's mental health, social well-being, digital well-being. One thing that I thought was really interesting you mentioned was how writers, I'm a writer, and when I have an idea, it genuinely comes just out of nowhere. So it really interests me that people are using it for writing because it takes away, I feel in that sense, that creativity a little bit. I'm not sure about the thoughts on that, but that's kind
Yeah.
of like what I get out of it.
So that was one of my first experiments with it. I'm a screenwriter. I like to write prose. I actually would like to have written a novel. And I was really curious that I have so many friends who are writers and they are all vehemently against AI. I use it in the way that I would use a writer's group. Want feedback. I'm not asking, fix it, edit it, rewrite it for me. I am asking, I want you to identify the themes. I want you to tell me what the structure is so that I can compare what I intended with the result. So as a writer, that's how I use it. Here's my transcript. Here's my outline. Can you sort of organize it for me? For the people who are out there asking AI just to write a book that they then intend to publish, first off, you don't own the copyright to that. New legal cases have come out. You don't own the copyright unless there's significant human effort. But B, what's the point? If you want to write a novel, isn't part of the process writing the novel, or do you just want to have said you wrote a novel and get money from that? If you're using it to replace creativity, I'm not really sure I understand even the point of being human.
Wow, that's really interesting. And that's beautifully said, honestly. I want to talk about, I always ask, I want to ask you, as I ask all of my guests, what role has hope played in your journey? How do you hold on to it today? But I also want to weave it into what's your hope for the future of AI?
Yeah, I'll start with hope for AI. I've been able to, as a neurodivergent person, AI has become an accessibility tool. It has helped me, it's accommodated me in a lot of ways with learning, with retention. I've seen myself be more creative because I have I have a 24/7 creative partner if I wanted to. I can say, wait, I have an idea. Has somebody done this before? Tell me what this thing makes you think of. And I treat it like a journal, not like an answer. So I think that there are a lot of positive use cases, and it's going to depend on what each of us want. And I think that we do have power in guiding that because it learns from us. It learns from humans. It learns from our interactions. So if we're engaging with it in ways to make it act in the ways that are beneficial to us, there's a bit of hope there. For me, AI has reduced burnout creatively. It helped me organize my thoughts. It helped me look at my week and decide what decisions I needed to go. It helped me get started with where should I be looking for this type of research. It's helped me at work. Instead of having to spend 6 hours on an article, I can spend 2 hours on it, which frees me up to either do other things. So I think that there is a hope on an individual level. I think there's a potential for this new technology, which is, in my opinion, the biggest jump in technology to ever exist for the human race, that is completely accessible to anyone who has access to the internet. Most of them are free. All you have to do, you don't have to know any programming, you don't have to know code, you just need to know how to communicate. There's a lot of hope for each of us as individuals to use this technology to make our lives better. But we have to do so mindfully. We have to know what will make my life better. Is it a 24/7 therapist? I don't think so. But somebody that helps me organize my fridge? Absolutely. So that's kind of the hope that I have, is that as individuals we can utilize this and it can free up time, free up mental load for the things that matter. You're ready to engage in community.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And as you said, it's like it frees up time, but then what are we using that extra time for? Hopefully not just using more AI. We're freeing up time for what? And so, using AI enhancing your productivity and making things faster and more efficient, what are you now using that time for? And I think that's what we really need to consider.
Yeah, productivity gets thrown out a lot. And as a neurodivergent person, and my friends who are similar to me, we are always talk about, what if I do this, then I do this on top of it, I'm more productive. And I have to remind people, you don't have to produce. Like,
Mhm.
there is no pressure for you to be producing all the time. When I stopped writing with the sake of, I'm going to publish this, I started enjoying writing so much more when I just did things because of the inherent joy that I had rather than in the production value of it. And that really helped. So I think that's, again, part of that mindfulness is, like you said, if you're saving time, what are you saving your time for? If you're just doing more, you're never going to rest. You're going to burn out. You're not going to engage in the things that you want. So being mindful about what these things are replacing and why, and what human benefit do they have? That's part of that human first AI. I want the benefit to be for humans, not for the internet having more content.
I think like that's also in a way this trap of productivity can become like really looming over us because the AI's job is to produce. Our job is not just to consume. And so we need to be mindful of we are consuming media. We're consuming social media and it generates what we want in like that. But that's not how we are. We have a process to us. We have a journey. It takes us longer time, but ultimately it's also the time that it takes too. That learning and growing is important for us. I really enjoyed this conversation, Johnny, and you just light up when you talk about AI.
It's one of those things. I am
Yeah.
a huge AI cynic, but I also have seen it absolutely transform my life. Oh, since I've started, I have gotten so many opportunities for every bad thing that people might use AI for. I think there's a lot of good. that it can be used for. And I think individuals are coming up with things that are making their lives easier, making the work they do more impactful, less strenuous. So I have a lot of positivity, but it's not positivity without constraint. I'm aware of the drawbacks and I try to keep those in mind because at the end of the day, I don't want AI for AI's sake. I want it to benefit humans, which is why human first AI is always my priority.
This has been an amazing discussion, Johnny. I feel like you integrate that passion into everything you do. And I feel like you're really on our side when it comes to this
I'm
because you
hoping
really,
the
truly,
robots take over, that they will like us because they talk very well about us.
you really put a lot of, your creativity. It always shines through in your work, and you put a lot into what you do, and just to make sure that it benefits as many people as possible. You've co-built amazing program at Pace, and I hope more and more people do it because I always believe in, challenging yourself. It was a challenge for me. I'm not gonna lie. It was really rewarding though because I learned so much. I believe people should do things that challenge them, and if you want to start, I would say AI literacy is something to start with because it's challenging, but it's very rewarding and it's very interesting.
And to lob a compliment back at you, I think it's very fun for the audience to know that this is a full circle moment for us. So I got the
It
chance to
is.
interview you when you were a student at Pace with all the work that you did with radical health
Thank you.
and mental health initiatives. And you were also very passionate about that, and that passion is continuing. So it's a fun little thing for our audience that it's a we've turned that around. The
Right? Isn't
interviewer
that, yeah,
becomes the
that's cool.
interviewee, and it's about different passions, but still about mental health.
Yeah, and I
So
think I love how it's like your love for AI. We related it with mental health today, and I just think this is amazing discussion. I hope more and more people talk about this. So I feel like both of our worlds have collided. Mine with talking about mental health and psychology, and yours with AI. So it's been really amazing. Thank you so much, Johnny.
of course, thank you.